Sports Professor Rick Horrow. And what a week it is. Women's World Cup, Major League Baseball All-Star Game, NFL football opening, all of the international soccer football events as well. Wimbledon, U.S. Open gives way to the British Northern Ireland. We'll be there for that as well. But let's look at the deal-making moments of the week. 3-1. First, number 3. IMG in the act, $1 billion for betting streaming and data rights with the ATP Tour. ATP Masters 100 tournaments, the Tour's 500 series, and a number of the 250 series events. Those are the smaller ones. IMG Arena is the division that they've launched in November 2008, and they're already a data partner for Golf's PGA Tour and European Tour, looking at capitalizing on the new U.S. sports wagering laws. The agency has representatives on the ATP board, reps elite players including Djokovic and Osaka, and now owns and operates ATP tournaments, including the Miami Open and Rio Open. If confirmed, the biggest rights deal in tennis history, certainly our top deal of the week. Number 2, the women's jersey sales outpaced all other U.S. soccer jerseys, including those of the men's team, Nike and Fanatics, for example. Nike said in its earnings report the women's 2019 Stadium home jersey, now the number 1 selling top U.S. jersey, men's or women's, ever sold on Nike.com in one season. Fanatics said its top-selling U.S. soccer national team, men's and women's, of all time. CEO of Nike, Mark Parker, said the women's team's success helped drive business for Nike even past the jersey, retailing for $90. He said energy around the World Cup, with 2/3 of the teams wearing Nike kits and half the players wearing Nike boots, pushed the company to the number 1 position in market share for bras this quarter in North America for the first time in the company's history. Stats impressive given the exposure Nike gained in '99 when Brandi Chastain scored the winning goal against China in a shootout and tore off her jersey, revealing her sports bra, one of the most iconic moments in women's sports history. That's number 2. Number 1, big deal all over the place. MLB All-Star Game, clearly, and it's a platform for Rob Manfred, the commissioner, who confirmed the league hopes to play more games in Europe. He said he hopes to make a long-term commitment to the region. I'm glad we're going back there next year, and I'd like to come back after that. I'm interested in having play in other cities in Europe. He didn't reveal which cities, but he emphasized that suitable stadiums will be critical to any potential deal. Until you get on the ground and figure what particular facility can be configured for baseball, it's just premature to talk about those other cities. Manfred also took the opportunity to address the situation around MLB's 2020 season opener. The game was expected to be played in Asia under the league's CBA with the Players Union, but Manfred said those plans have now been put on hold. The league's 2 London games set the stage next season, the Cubs and the Cardinals, and that's number 3. Speaking of baseball, we head into the All-Star Game. We talk about international baseball, Major League Baseball generally. Focus on the game itself from a lot of different perspectives. Woody Thompson, the Executive Vice President of Octagon, joins us for a conversation about MLB, the All-Star Game. He was in London for that event, and his relationship with Octagon and Major League Baseball is led by Woody Thompson and all Octagon client efforts surrounding the All-Star Game. Octagon spearheading campaigns for B of A, Budweiser, MGM, MasterCard, Taco Bell, and others, and Woody easily talks about all of those efforts, including the current and future trends of Major League Baseball. Woody Thompson.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the boardroom. Beyond the scoreboard, we end up going from an incredible shootout. The pitchers will hate the ERA of the Yankees and the Red Sox in London, to All-Star Weekend in Cleveland and the unique opportunity for baseball to grow its brands, the deals that they've got, and the big process, and the person basically who can give us more perspective than anybody out there is Woody Thompson, Executive Vice President of Octagon. He leads Octagon's relationship with MLB and runs all client efforts surrounding the All-Star Game. He's spearheading campaigns for B of A, Budweiser, MGM, MasterCard, Taco Bell. And the bottom line is, if you want to talk about the health of baseball, here's your man. Hey, Woody, how you?
I'm pretty good, Rick. How about yourself?
I'm good. What was it like? Are you leading an effort on behalf of the players to prorate down the ERAs after those shellackings at London? What are you going to do?
Yeah, we were talking about it. That first inning Saturday, we were in the stands, and, I was with a bunch of Yankee fans. Everybody was pretty excited, and the theory started to pop in that bottom of the inning when the Red Sox came back and scored 6, and we thought maybe the batter's eye was a little larger than it normally is, and then we realized that maybe just the pitching wasn't very good that day. But regardless, it was an interesting couple of games.
Well, so obviously it's an interesting brand experience, the MLB's to Australia and Japan, and obviously the World Baseball Classic in Mexico and other efforts as well. How does baseball fare, first of all, the London experience, and how do you think they're doing growing the game internationally anyway?
I think it's going to be interesting for them. I think their main goal is more than likely growing the game from a media standpoint and generating some interest in having people tune in and perhaps hopefully selling the broadcast rights in various markets for more than they traditionally have. Having spent the past week in London, I can tell you that the Brits themselves the jury may still be out on how they feel about it, but there was a lot of excitement in that ballpark in and around it. I would say great mix of expats, but a lot of Londoners, a lot of Europeans who decided to make the trip over to London. So, baseball and those two teams, especially in the Yankees brand, and wherever you travel in the world, somebody's got a Yankees hat on. They brought a lot of excitement. I think the real litmus test is going to be next year when it's Cardinals, Cubs, and let's see how those fan bases travel, and let's see how well those two brands translate to international markets.
Well, as you said, we've got a couple of interesting rivalries back to back to back, and we'll see what happens. Is this similar or different than the beginning of the process of the international series in London, where you now have some multiple games with multiple teams? Do we ever think that Major League Baseball will go beyond a series of one-off weekend games in London, or was that it?
Well, we were talking about it, and if you really think about the travel time, and really it's no different than flying out to Seattle for a series. And granted, there's when a team flies out to Seattle, they're going down to Oakland and down to Anaheim, but I don't know that there's going to be, the NBA dream of having a team based in London, or I think you may see multiple series with multiple teams over the course of the year if they continue to generate this kind of interest. I mean, the stadium was packed. The people were very much engaged, and the tubes were packed. It was, about 100 degrees and on the commute on Saturday, so people braved the elements and they came out, and if that continues to be the case, they'll have more games here.
As anything, brand awareness, this is more of a brand awareness and corporate activation play than a direct revenue enhancement. Is that right? What do you think the core of this is?
I believe that it's about media and media rights. There were brands involved in this. We looked at it for all of our clients, both from an above-the-line activation standpoint and a below-the-line hospitality standpoint. And, it really wasn't that well engaged here the first year out. I think you had a lot of people in town for the games whose eyes were opened a little bit. Yes, certainly it's a baseball awareness play for Major League Baseball here, but Mitel, I think, does a lot of business in the UK and in Europe, and it made sense for them and for their business, and you sure couldn't miss Mitel here the past 5 or 6 days in London, especially out at that stadium. I mean, they were inextricably linked to these games, whether it was on the batting helmets or the outfield signage or the banners around the stadium or subway advertising or what have you. So Mitel, I don't think they underpaid for it, but I think they probably feel like they got their money's worth.
Hey, man, it's just marketing people doing their job, right? I mean, that's exactly what that's all about.
That's right.
Shift to the All-Star Game and the weekend for a minute. What's MLB done differently to make their All-Star Game so unique and valuable to brands and league sponsors to keep them coming back and happy?
But, I think outside of the Fox broadcast, which continues to be the real, the golden goose here, because let's face it, it's the highest rated sports event in the summer, really. I mean, even more than a lot of the major golf events. And so, but outside of the media piece, it is a local happening that comes to a market and takes over. And especially in markets, like what we'll probably see in Cleveland and what we saw in Cincinnati a few years ago and Kansas City and Minneapolis, it really does take over. And there's a great sense of civic pride that goes on. And the Fan Fest that begins on Friday is something that is extremely well attended, especially by people who may not be lucky enough to get a ticket to the game. But, they've created what they call All-Star Week, and there's a series of activities. And, I've been involved for quite some time. We used to run Century 21's Home Run Derby activation when they were the title sponsor. And just, in the evolution of that particular property, T-Mobile and Major League Baseball have done a phenomenal job of refreshing that and bringing it along and making it more compelling and more exciting. And, it's for a lot of people, that Home Run Derby, now that it's timed, is really the highlight, other than the game itself, obviously, but it's really the highlight of All-Star Week. And baseball's done a great job of making this a major festival of all things baseball, whether it's the Futures game or the Celebrity Softball game. They have a 5K color run. From a municipal standpoint, their engagement with these cities has been fantastic, and the cities have really gotten behind it. And I think we'll see some very special stuff in Cleveland, and then also as we look forward to Los Angeles next year.
Yeah, LA is going to be a biggie, quite obviously, but so will be Cleveland. And here's my advice as your de facto agent. Since you had a hand in that original Home Run Derby from the Century 21 perspective, I think you get 10% of Bryce Harper's contract, since bottom line was he got that contract effectively because of last year's Home Run Derby. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'd take that if someone's offering that. But, but I think, one of the really interesting things about the Home Run Derby is a lot of guys don't want to do it because it puts them in a lot of guys have swung themselves out and had lousy second halves because of that Home Run Derby, because they're just going hell-bent for leather the entire time. And so MLB really, it's an important piece of their puzzle, and T-Mobile is one of their most important sponsors. So they want the best home run hitters in the game. And, I know you probably know we're hitting home runs right now at a record clip. I think that they set the record for home runs in the month of May, and apparently they just confirmed that they set it again here in the month of June. So it's in everybody's best interest, except maybe the players, to have the best home run hitters in the game involved in that event. And but the format itself has evolved, and it's really just a great property.
It's a great property, and it also does showcase people who actually do participate. It's interesting, the guys who are clearly like Stanton and some of those superstars who did maybe swing themselves out but got the moment in the sun. But we now also have this new special election where you actually have all-star guys campaigning and their clubs campaigning for them to get the starting positions. What do you think of that? I mean, that's kind of a cool way to promote stars, isn't it?
It is, and I think, one of the most important things that baseball can do, and this is, through the wonder and the fantastic opportunity afforded to us by social media, what you've got is a great platform for baseball and the teams themselves to showcase their brightest young stars. And that really is, again, in everybody's best interest, this time including the players, because there is a fantastic crop of young players in this league. The localized nature of Major League Baseball sometimes means that somebody in Phoenix, Arizona doesn't know about the guy, in St. Louis or in Baltimore. and these campaigns for all-star status help bring those players to the forefront. And I know that a lot of the voting has changed over the years as well, and this new system is engaging for fans. It showcases the players and creates a little competition before the competition.
Well, good. So you're a clear, unparalleled expert at corporate activation. You notice that the MLB partners like Bank of America and Taco Bell effectively hit it out of the park during All-Star Weekend. So what other brands are doing it best?
First of all, Taco Bell is technically only a sponsor of the World Series, so they don't really get involved in Major League Baseball until their Steal a Base, Steal a Taco program that we help them manage in postseason. But Bank of America uses it as a platform for this year, especially for launching a major consumer initiative. It is a launch pad. MasterCard has always used it in the past, any number of years to launch their Stand Up to Cancer program. And there are below-the-line hospitality initiatives, B2B programs that go on for essentially every sponsor. But this is it is a tentpole event. It is the midpoint of the season. You only have a few of those with baseball, and this is a national platform that a national sponsor can kind of come out of its more localized shell, if you will, and be on a stage that puts their brand at the forefront and allows them to hopefully, in a relevant and meaningful manner, showcase exactly what it is that drives them to be a sponsor of baseball, and that connection that they have between their brand and the essence of their brand and the passion that people feel for the game of baseball.
So in your perspective of baseball itself, kind of final party question, the business and the marketability of baseball is stronger than ever?
Yeah, I think, we keep hearing a lot about attendance being down, and I think, look, weather has a lot to do with that. I think there definitely are some markets that are weaker than others. But, baseball, we always go back to, James Earl Jones in Field of Dreams, and we talk about, people will come, and baseball has stood the test of time, and it'll always be there. And, look, truth be told, I'm a lacrosse guy. I grew up playing lacrosse. I played lacrosse in college. I loved the game of lacrosse. But baseball has a place in this country in the hearts and minds of everybody. Whether you're a kid or an adult, baseball's there for you. And some people, don't love it, but the numbers don't lie. It may not be America's pastime anymore, but it's right up there with something that people can really hang on to. My dad always told me that 162 games was too much of an emotional commitment, and there's something to that, I think. But when push comes to shove and you love your team, you're there for your team 162 games a year.
It certainly beats other sports. I do know that. Here is a serial lacrosse guy telling us that Major League Baseball's marketability is in good hands. Woody Thompson, Octagon's baseball guy. Thanks very much. Rick Horrow, speak with you soon.
Well, Woody gives us certainly some interesting perspective. TR and the Universal Tennis Platform, adopted by players, coaches, organizers, academies, clubs, and colleges worldwide to facilitate more connectivity and better competition across the tennis landscape. The new ATR app, free for all tennis players of any age and skill level. And in the U.S., all USTA and college players already have a rating and profile on UTR. To celebrate the app's launch, Universal Tennis raffles tennis gear for those who post scores, whether professional or amateur. Sounds like a big deal, and that's the Top Tech Sports Minute. Now the Power of Sports Minute, all philanthropic issues for the week. And the first one is All-Star related. The All-Star Game auctions off Louisville Slugger and Fender guitars for charity. taking place in Cleveland, paying tribute to the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yahoo Finance says the location of the All-Star Week makes an ideal partnership between two manufacturers that are world leaders in their respective areas, Louisville Slugger baseball bats and Fender musical instruments. To celebrate the rock and roll history of the city, MLB partnered with the two companies to create a public exhibit featuring 31 pairs of artist-inspired Fender Stratocasters and Louisville Slugger baseball bats, one for each MLB team and one for the Baseball Hall of Fame. These bats and guitars will be displayed through July 9 at the Cleveland Public Square's Midsummer Village and later auctioned off for charity. Funds raised by MLB charities to be used for instrument purchases and music program learning resources. And finally, the American Cancer Society and Skills Esports launching a year-long partnership. Their efforts come together to feature a series of charity esports tournaments to support the fight against cancer. Venture Beat says Skills has proven to be a strong platform for philanthropic fundraising, activating nearly 27,000 new nonprofit donors in just 10-day charity esports tournaments. Because Skills is a mobile-based platform, gamers worldwide can compete in games powered by the Skills platform and donate proceeds to ACS. The first tournament ran June 29 and 30, and more will happen in the near future. Additionally, Scotland's Outplay Entertainment, the United Kingdom developer of Bubble Shooter League on iOS, will cross-promote content to support the initiative. The great part is that anyone can get in on the gaming and charity action. Interested players can download skills-enabled games like Solitaire Cube, Strike Bowling, Bubble Shooter League, and Bubble Shooter tournaments. Obviously revenue, but more important for charity. We'd like to thank Woody Thompson and guys for putting this together, focusing on the Major League Baseball All-Star Game and all international implications. And we'd like to thank you for listening and tuning in. And next week, join us again